going between the two engines. That shows the scale of the ship. I love the relentless score here. And this, I think it's because Jerry, even at that time, didn't work much with keyboard. This is all orchestra. So now we're at war. Now they realize they cannot go back into hypersleep. They have to do something. They're obviously not prepared for such eventualities. And therefore they're having to use and adapt materials and lash up weapons, including flamethrowers, to hunt and protect this thing. Of course, at this moment, they think it's tiny. But with this exotic biomechanoid, he's growing as they speak.
Micro changes in air density.
Good answer. Dallas is always very cool. Yaphet was always great as the troublemaker on board the ship. And the day that Yaphet had to die, he said, "I'm not going to die." He said, "This thing can't kill me." So I had to have this long discussion persuading him to die that day. So here they are in the bowels.
I thought you fixed 12 modules.
We did.
A lot of the stuff we used here, see that egg crating, that's all just standard industrial pallets. We just created most of the set out of the pallets, and the rest were tube and exotic looking pipework and conduits from aircraft. In fact, at one stage, Roger Christian went off and bought 2 Canberra bombers, and we just dismantled them. Of course, on each bomber, there's millions of parts. These are jet engines standing on end. And we used, all this stuff was essentially real. So I just got the stuff. And this is like what I always thought was like an Egyptian treasure trove, this room. So I said the whole room should be gold. And so we made it, spread it all gold. And I got that really off the first moon landing vehicle, which of course had all that, it looked what I'd call in English Heath Robinson, kind of a simple lash-up with a lot of copper tin foil underneath to protect it. And so we kept that in mind. Even this simple storeroom is a great set. And this is, of course, where we bring the cat into play. I doubt that the ship like this would have mice on board, but the cat really is the mascot of the ship. Again, stretching out time for tension. Of course, when you've looked at this a few times, you start to think, maybe we should get there quicker. But now I haven't seen the film for a few years. I think it works. I took these lockers off Giger's book, Necronomicon, where Giger is fascinated by machines, and there was a marvelous photograph that he took of the back of a garbage truck in Zurich, which was kind of somehow threatening and grim, and that's what really these lockers were taken from. I love this moment here. I love that moment where Yaff got really scared, and Harry, who may have been a little slower, doesn't realize what he's done. He's let the goddamn cat go, so now they can't pick up on a specific small movement. I love this cue here. Love this cue. Now you know Harry's going to die. You can hear the ship creaking. There's the treasure room. Yeah, we actually, because this is one of the equipment rooms, I just got fairly exotic looking digging equipment of the appropriate size, small bulldozers and small earth movers, and just spread them all gold. And somehow it works as very high-tech pieces of equipment. Harry always loved that close-up. He thanked me. He saw the premiere, and he came to me and said, "Thanks for the close-up." You hear the sound? Yeah, that sounds organic again. Now that sound, I think, is a pulse. Now, this is a combination of this piece of equipment, of existing equipment, tank tracks, with some shell casings. And there you have the pulse, which may be a very, very pullback heartbeat. And the skin, the discarded skin, like a snake would discard its skin of something. Now we go into a room. There's a big argument about this room. They said, how would you have water dripping inside this room? And my argument was, it's condensation from the air conditioning. But this is a landing leg room where the floor would open and that leg would go down and, you know, support the ship. He knows he's in trouble. But after all, the object he's looking for is small, isn't it? Now, to get this reaction out of the cat, I had a leashed, I might add, for all animal lovers, because the cat wouldn't behave, so I had a German Shepherd behind a sheet of board on a leash, so it obviously couldn't get near the cat. I just raised the board, and I got the reaction. The cat went, "What?" I was like this where he, and the sound on the peak, on his peak, and on his face, it's cooling off. Silence again, and long stretches leading up to something. There he is.
Hey, come on, baby. Come on, baby.
And here we have it.
Yeah, come on, baby.
There it is. Perfect reaction. And a beautiful head. I wanted it to be beautiful. And I guess that's beautiful in a streamlined way. And the cat going backwards is perfect. And he doesn't know what he's looking at. No idea what he's looking at. And there's the famous mouth. We used to have, Ripley and Sigourney and Yaphet rush in, but somehow that was too normal. It was more elegant to leave him to die in a lonely fashion and then come to them here. The cat was the only witness. I think Veronica starts to evoke a more fragile human spirit who is now terrified. And she's got the first sense of the reality of the situation, that they're really in trouble.
The son of a bitches.
So this is suggesting they saw something. It was better not to see it. And Ash saying Kane's son is very interesting, because the whole notion of this, was taken off a certain type of insect that will find a host for its eggs, and then in that host, which could be another insect, a grub preferably, it will bury its eggs, and then, of course, the eggs will grow and consume the host. So that's the logic of it all. It's probably what makes a lot of nature go round. Again, great sound, great aerial sound. You probably wouldn't get sound in space, but we decided to have it. Talking to the company. Talking to Weyland-Yutani, which I figured at that time. In fact, it reflected it later in Blade Runner that the world eventually is obviously going to be run by companies, and organizations, which seemed exotic, 18 years ago, but now it's a reality, right? That's the way we're headed. And so this was speculation at the time. But funnily, by the time I got to do Blade Runner, the idea that the Tyrell Corporation was a mega company, which at what stage does a company decide to have its own private army, its own or protection service, right? And I think at what moment does a company become more powerful than the government? And so that was always a subtext here, and certainly was in Blade Runner. This is where Dallas has elected to go into the vents, because that's where they believe it is. And I always loved the use of, we use just existing technology for the vents, with the huge steel irises, which I think have become a trademark since then in rock videos. But this was very simply shot. The set for the vent is tiny, and this was a big discussion and argument, budgetary argument, about how I had to have some kind of set to shoot Dallas in the vent. And so this was built on the edge of a set, and I doubt the set was more than 30 feet long tube with a T-section in the middle, so you have an up and a down, a horizontal. And it was tricky for Dallas because he's carrying a light, B, he's got the flamethrower, which is eating up his oxygen. So that's how you can hear him breathing heavily, which I think was always great.
Open the hatch to the third junction.
And of course that iris is very threatening. I think, again, this is where Tom's kind of underplayed character who refuses to be phased. Underplayed is a bad word, actually. I think he played it brilliantly, where he's always cool, understated, and in a really terrifying situation. You've got a real sense of claustrophobia. And also, Sigourney's sense of doom. I think she knows that he's going to die.
Dallas, hold it a minute. I think I got it.
This is really a one-way street, a real cul-de-sac.
Somewhere around the third junction.
And you have Veronica being supercharged, convinced something awful's going to happen. And I always believe, unless the actors are saying this to you, you're not going to be frightened as an audience. So then we get repetition of the same set, so there we get a sense of a whole complex. Of course, this is where sound mix is great, because you can give a sense of the cavernous interiors of all these tubes. A lot of reverb on Dallas's voice. Again, we keep shooting the same ladder and the same tube. It's an exercise in using the same set many times.
I've lost the signal.
You sure?
Look around. Are you sure that it's not there? I mean, it's got to be around.
The first time I see Dallas bothered in the film, this is where he starts to feel that he's in trouble.
Dallas, are you sure there is no sign of it? I mean, it is there.
There you get a panicked reaction.
It's got to be around there.
It's an interesting scene here, this, because somehow Tom really makes the audience feel put in the same situation.
I might play around, but I want to get the hell out of here.
And we know he's going to die.
Oh, God, it's moving right.
Now it's inevitable. And you get a sense of his feeling of panic as well, which is wonderful.
Move! Get out of there! Don't you move! Dad!
And Ash waits for the inevitable. Move.
Dallas? No.
Oddly enough, that was a sequence that we weren't really prepared for because we didn't really have what I thought was enough of a set. But again, when you're forced to be inventive, you know, the best comes out of it. It works very well.
We found this laying there. No blood. No Dallas. Nothing. How come I don't hear anybody saying nothing?
I'm thinking.